civilization. But later on, during the Abbasid period in Baghdad, this process of translating books from other civilizations into the Arabic language basically went on steroids, right? They started to, actually the rulers and the caliphs, they started to patronize scholars and translators for translating these works, right? So a lot of works from the Greek civilization were translated, works of Aristotle, works of Plato, works of Greek physicians and philosophers and mathematicians. A lot of these things were translated. A lot of the knowledge came from Persia. It also came from the Roman world. So whatever was left behind by previous civilizations was pretty much translated in Baghdad into the Arabic language, and then giant libraries were created. Many scholars started to frequent Baghdad. Jewish, Christian, Muslim, and people of no religion, in some cases, also started to frequent Baghdad to seek knowledge from intellectuals and scholars. There were theologians in Baghdad during the Abbasid period. To be precise, the first century of the Abbasid rule, there were poets, there were scholars, there were authors, there were people who were writing their travelogues, there were people who were writing on science, people writing on philosophy, people writing on theology, people producing commentaries on hadith sciences, all sorts of people writing all sorts of books. So this was a very powerful hub of education, okay, hub of knowledge. So people flocked from all around the world to learn in Baghdad. And then later on, a lot of these books were transferred to Al-Andalus, Islamic Spain.
Gotcha. So in a very short period of time, going from an unlettered shepherds, kind of, nomads in the middle of the desert, to a hub of where people come and learn, and libraries and so on. A period of how long do you think, from the revelation of the Quran to this Baghdad period, let's say?
I would say no less than 150 years. Okay, 100 years. From the Prophet Muhammad SAW died in 632 CE. By 732 CE, exactly a century later, the Muslims had already taken land as far as China and Spain, right? The year 732 is a very important year, right? It was in 732 when a battle took place in France between the Muslims and early Carolingians. Carolingians were led by Charles Martel, the then king of France. Okay, this was in 732 CE, exactly a century after the Prophet had passed away. So the first period, as I said, was the period of consolidation of power, right? The first century of Islam was all about, conquest, taking of land, and consolidation of that power. After this consolidation had taken place, what came was the civilization of Islam in its true colors, right? Libraries, poetry, literature, philosophy, scholars traveling from Baghdad to Spain and from Baghdad to China and vice versa. So many scholars were traveling throughout the Muslim empire, throughout the Muslim civilization. You may find a scholar from China in Spain, and you may find a Spanish traveler, let's say in the Middle East later on, like Ibn Jubair. The period I'm talking about was basically anywhere between let's say 750 CE to 1250 CE, a period of 500 years when the Muslim civilization was the most civilized part of the world. The Muslim lands were the most civilized places in the world. The city of Cordoba was the largest city in the world in the 10th century, with a population of 1 million people. The city of Baghdad, when the Mongols destroyed it, was one of the largest cities in the world, with one of the largest libraries in the world. The Mongols destroyed so many books in Baghdad that the water of river became black due to the ink that was dissolving in water from books, from these texts that were preserved in the library of Baghdad. Only Allah knows what we lost in that library. There were probably Qur'ans there from the time of the Prophet and the Sahaba and early Hadith literature and things like that we might have lost due to the Mongol destruction.
You know, it's funny you say that. You could say that same statement about 2001 of what happened in Baghdad again, the looting and the libraries and so on. It's
the museum,
still
the museum of
so
Baghdad.
much more.
Yes,
so much more there than
war is ugly. War is evil, and in some cases, civilizations, when they are not taught ethics and morals, they end up committing atrocities. Mongols did that. The Crusaders did that. The Catholic monarchs in Spain, when they were taking land from Muslims, and it took them about 700 years to take all the land back from the Muslims. When they were taking land, they were destroying the Muslim legacy systematically. In fact, when the city of Granada fell in 1492 to two of the Catholic monarchs, a coalition of two Catholic monarchs, in fact, the library of Granada was burnt. Over 1 million books were burnt in that particular destruction, right? So we don't know what we lost there. That was the Muslim legacy of Spain. That was the hard work of the Muslims who had existed in Spain for nearly 700 years, right? All of that was destroyed after that conquest. So only Allah knows what we lost there. So these translations moved on to Spain, and we can talk about what happened in Spain, inshallah ta'ala, unless you have any other questions.
No, I think we can dive into Spain, but before you do